All right, welcome to Intro to Technology 1023, the operating system edition and portion of this curriculum. Okay, so one of the things that we need to go over with this is that an operating system for most people up to this point, especially if you're not coming from a software family or an engineering family, is that it's tied to the company. So a Apple OS is an Apple OS. There is no real difference between iOS and Mac OS. For most people, there is no difference. They just look at the thing, right? It's tied to the device. It's tied to the company, which isn't true. And it's actually dangerous to think that way, especially if you're going to go into the IT field, because there are significant differences between all the operating systems and all the iterations of them. Let's take Apple, for example. Safari is significantly different on mobile than what it is on Mac OS. So the difference between macOS and iOS for Safari is significant. And if you are a web developer, you know the pain of that. Okay. So with that said, we need to start at what is an operating system, what it's there for, and what it's trying to do. So what it's doing, it's software that communicates with hardware. For the most part, this is known as firmware. Now, obviously, there's going to be software built into Windows or Mac OS that doesn't interact with the hardware, right? It is pure logic. But for the most part, the operating system is there to be firmware so you can manipulate or alter the experience of the device, right, through software. This is known as firmware. This allows for third-party software to alter it. Right? So when you download and install a program, you're altering the operating system. You're altering the experience. You're altering what that system can do. And this is part of the reason why general compute is so influential in how we live and how we interact with the world, right? The amount of tech that I'm using right now to record this lecture is mind-boggling, and people take it for granted on a daily basis. Okay, the history of the OS. Most of the operating systems, when we started out doing this little experiment, were called mainframe operating systems, and they were custom made for a particular application. Very much how a Tesla operating system is unique to Tesla, right? Same thing with everything else. So anything that is new and cutting edge or even bleeding edge is going to be custom firmware, custom software, custom everything, because you cannot waste cycles and you don't want that system to be manipulated in any way. So it's a different mindset, but still an operating system, just not the one that you're traditionally used to. Then personal computing started in the 80s. Some would argue, late 70s, doesn't overly matter, but allows for alteration and generally speaking is significantly slower in comparison. There's a few reasons for this, mostly because you have to account for a significant amount of complexity, and that means you have to account for a significant amount of checks and guardrails and everything else that comes with having third parties alter a system. Okay, here are your desktop OSs in chronological order. Now, this is not all-encompassing. These are all the important ones. So we have Unix by AT&T, 1969. So this is by far the one that kicked off the operating system that people know it as today. And it was popularized by using the C programming language. It was very popular for a long time, very expensive, very slow, mostly because it's AT&T trying to make a bunch of money on it. But it was slow because of a bunch of reasons. But yeah, first iterations, never the best. Okay, so we got Apple DOS in 1980. We have MS-DOS in 1981, and you're going to notice a trend throughout the tech industry that Apple and Microsoft kind of just fight each other. Linux. So Linus Torvalds around, well, a little bit before 1991, but for simplicity, we'll call it 1991. Essentially realized that, hey, all these operating systems that these companies are making and they're trying to make money off of it, we don't know what they're trying to do at all. However, we don't like that. So we're going to make our own operating system. We're going to call it open. And that eventually turned into open source software. So the three primary branches of open source operating systems is Debian, Red Hat, and OpenSUSE. Now, for this course and for this curriculum as a technology major, we are almost always going to be using Debian. Now, there's lots of Red Hat software out there and a lot of Red Hat servers, so it might be worth considering to explore that on your own. Okay, 92 was 3.1. 95 was Windows 95. All right, so if you're as old as I am, you remember using Windows 95. Dark times. Windows 98, no one really cared about, but it set a standard for a rapid iteration for Windows. Windows XP of 2001, Mac OS of 2001, Windows 7 of 2009, so there's a pretty good gap in there. Vista is not in there. That's part of the reason why Microsoft Vista was largely considered a prototype OS. Had a lot of problems with it. Windows 7 was basically Vista, just better with all the bugs ironed out. Chrome OS, 2010. Windows 8.1, 2013, wasn't very good. Windows 10, 2015, good. Windows 11 has its own problems, but technology has changed quite a bit as well, and it's going to account for a lot. So that brings us up to current day. And yeah, in terms of the desktop OSs, we've really converged on Linux, mostly Debian for desktop. I mean, there is Fedora, but Red Hat is mostly enterprise stuff. Then we have Mac OS. And then Chrome OS is becoming increasingly popular just because of the education system adopting Chrome OS and cloud compute platforms. Server OSs. All right, Windows Server. And then you have Linux. Okay, so how do we put this? Windows Server has been around for a long time. And as we continue to move to cloud compute, it's becoming more Linux dominated. And honestly, Linux is ran on everything except for desktop. So part of the reason why you probably haven't heard of it, and if you have heard of it, you don't use it, is because not the best desktop operating system. Is quite annoying in comparison if you are coming from Apple or Microsoft. Okay, mobile OS is super interesting because these things tend to rise and fall as quickly as the sun. So 93, Neton or Newton OS, Palm OS doesn't even exist anymore as a company. Java 2 Micro for BlackBerry. BlackBerry doesn't really exist anymore. Windows CE doesn't exist anymore. Monte Vista doesn't exist anymore. There might be an iteration that does. Windows Mobile 5 doesn't exist anymore. iOS definitely does. Android definitely does, especially with all the branches that it has now. Gecko Firefox OS definitely exists, and Fire OS, which is Kindle. All those are very important, but as you notice that FireOS is the most recent one that was new and introduced, we're definitely reaching a convergence point with mobile OSs as well. We're just iterating on things that already exist and already work. Creating a new operating system is incredibly difficult and incredibly time intensive. Same thing with browsers. Actually, I lied to you. You can watch this on your own time. So, because I don't want this getting flagged on YouTube for copyright infringement. So, that's the link to it. It's Brian Kernighan, Yale professor. Worked on the Unix project back when they're developing it. So, he's been in the field for 50 years now. Very, very interesting how people that have been around for that long have seen the development of the field. And it's very interesting to see these people put up critiques about software in general. And I do see the pendulum swinging back from all these tools to something a little bit more pure. So with that said, we can talk about those problems later on in the curriculum because we're going to have to. With that said, that's all I got for this one, and I'll see you in the next presentation. All right, welcome back. We're going to have to go over how to do some basic functionality within the operating system. So I'm currently using Windows. Um, these things are going to be different on the other operating systems, but most people are using Windows. So we're going to have to use this. Now, the curriculum is set up in such a way where we have to account for people that have never used computers. Now, until we update that, we have to go over some of these basic things that the curriculum thinks is important. And basically what we're going to do is just checklist. Okay, so we're going to go over a few things and then we're just going to move on with life because the vast majority of you already know how to use your operating system relatively well, with one major exception, and that is files. Okay, so we're going to spend a bunch of time on files and file management. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down here to File Explorer and I'm going to open up, right click, File Explorer. And here we go. All right. Now, with that said, I'm going to go to my local disk. More than likely, it's going to be your C drive. We're going to click here. Okay. And the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to come over to, I don't know. Let's come down to users. Click. Go down to your name. I named this computer Balthier. Okay. And this is the home folder for me. And then if you followed along, for you as well. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do, and one of the things I'm noticing is that this is quite messy up at this point. So that actually works out pretty well. So we're going to delete these files directly. And a lot of people up to this point use search bars for everything, which is not particularly awesome, but we'll get into why that might be annoying here in a second. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to delete these files all at once. And if you notice, there's a bunch of things that I want to get rid of that are not in order. So VirtualBox can stay. Actually, all these dots are Linux files because they should be hidden and they're not. Anyways, moving on. So we have Atari here. Don't care about Atari and don't know why it's here. Okay, documents can stay, favorites can stay, Game Boy can go, Go, which is Golang, Go language made by Google. Okay, N64. And how I'm clicking on these where they're all active at the same time is that I'm using Control and then left click to click on these. I don't want OneDrive at all. PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Postman can stay, Sega can go away. I'm going to leave source. Xbox, Etcher can go. Okay, and now that I have, okay, the rest of these can go. So I'm going to use Shift this time. Shift, click. Okay, so now that I got all of these, it inverted my selection, which isn't awesome, but let's use Control again to get all the things that we are trying to get rid of here, which is this. Okay, and now I'm going to use the delete key on my keyboard to delete all of these. So I'm going to delete. We're going to get this little message here that it is essentially figuring out how much space you're going to get rid of because it's open in system. Okay, if you get a message like this, just skip. Okay, and the next thing that I'm going to do, because we just deleted these files, but Windows has something called a recycle bin. Recycle bin. There we go. We're going to open this up. So I went down to the search bar. I typed in recycle. I'm going to open up recycle bin. Notice that all these things are still here. That's not great. I want to get rid of them. So what I'm going to do is Control All. So Control A. That's going to highlight everything. And now I'm going to delete these. Now I'm getting a message. Do you want to permanently delete these 58 items? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. And notice down here that we started above 40 gigabytes that we're getting rid of. So just because you don't see it in the original file or folder, the file is still there. Okay, you just have to go into recycle bin. And the reason why we do this is because people make mistakes all the time. Okay, so when you delete something, you want to make it relatively difficult to delete these things intentionally. Right? You have to make it intentional, where you have to go into recycle bin, Control All, delete it, and then still confirm that you want to delete it. All right? Because most people, in most ways, are going to delete the thing, and they're going to think it's fine. And then, like 6 months later, they're going to go, "What happened to my pictures?" It's in the recycle bin. It's fine. Go save it. Okay? So there is that. There's a basic thing. Now, with that said, here is the other thing that we have to get across right now. And you have to get good at this. You have to, especially if you're going to be in the technology field. You have to be able to navigate your file structure inside of command line. Okay, so this is known as file pathing. Now, I opened up what is called CMD. So I hit down here on the Windows icon, which is the bottom left-hand corner, and I typed in CMD, command prompt. Okay, I already have this open. Just hit enter if you didn't see that. All right, what I need to do is draw your attention to this right here. So this C right here represents the drive that you're currently on. C drive, colon, which is just syntax, backslash, users, both AIR. Now this is going to be probably your last name or first name, depends on what you called your computer. So the first thing that I'm going to do is show you that this is exactly the same as this folder that we were at. Why didn't that come forward? There we go. Right here. It's exactly the same. So take a little mental snapshot of all the things that are in here, or just a handful of things, so I can prove to you that it is the same. What I'm going to do is dir. This is a command, stands for directory. Android cache config .NET library manager. So let's bring this up as a comparison. Android cache config .NET library manager NuGet. I think I make my point. Okay, so this is the same. The same. The reason why you need to be able to do this through command line is because when you start interacting with servers and services, especially if you're going into networking, this is how you're going to interact with those things. You do not get a GUI. GUI stands for graphic user interface. Okay, so we have our directory list here. All right, now I need to navigate around and get to, let's go to downloads. Let's go to downloads. Downloads is a popular thing for me. I'm going to type in CD. This stands for change directory. Change directory. Let's use backslash, not Linux. Okay, backslash. We need downloads. And for the time being, I want you to focus on capitalizations. Okay, in Windows, it doesn't matter. In Linux, it most certainly does. Okay, we're going to go into downloads. Cannot find path. Why not? I was missing a dot apparently. Okay, so change directory dot backslash downloads. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. Now we got raw recordings Zwift, which apparently we had an update this morning, and then dot and dot dot. So I'm listing directories here. I'm going to go into Balthier again. I'm going to go to downloads, which is this folder. And notice that these are the same as well. Now, we just went down a directory, we went into a folder. Let's go into one more folder. Let's go into these raw recordings that I'm recording to right now to this folder. So change directory. I'm going to go /raw. Oh. So because I have a space here in my folder name, I need quotations around what is going to be known as a string. So this is going to tell Windows that, hey, the thing that you're about to do, the thing that's about to go forward, is considered one thing, like this. Okay? So now we're inside of that folder. Here we go. I have a bunch of these videos and it tells me how big these files are. So in particular, the Excel video that I just did not too long ago, that is 26.5 gigabytes of size. And here are all the topics that I've done just today. So now that we have that, I need to get out of this folder now. Okay, so how do we do that? So we still need change directories, still CD, but we're going to use a little bit different syntax now. It's going to be ... and I'm going to use \. Now notice over here, from this position right here, raw recordings, this is the folder that we are in, .. / tells me to go up a directory, and now we're back into downloads. So if you noticed, this raw recordings right here, 2 downloads, 2 Balthier, 2 users. Okay. Fortunately for us, if I need to go all the way back to root or the C drive, I don't have to go one at a time to do that. What I can do is something like this, ... / and each one of these is going to represent that folder. So ... / downloads, ... / Balthier, ... / users. This is going to bring me back to the C drive. And now we're over here just to prove that we are actually in the C drive. There we go. That is the C drive. So just in case you don't believe me, let's come over to downloads. I'm going to click on C drive. I'm going to let you compare Windows BT. A couple hidden folders, those aren't going to show up. Epic, ESD, perf, program files, both of them. Okay, so we're in the same directory. Now, one of the things that is a little bit limiting with CMD is that, well, a lot of things are limiting with CMD. So what we end up using a good fair bit, and we'll go over this later in the curriculum. By curriculum, I mean the actual 4-year curriculum. PowerShell is what I'm looking for, not PowerPoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do. All right, so now we're using different software, still command line, but it is much more powerful. So I can still do directory, which we've been using. I can still use CD. Okay, so we went up one. Now I'm going to go back into Balthier. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into documents, and now I'm going to create a file. So I'm pretty sure this is new item. I don't use PowerShell very often. New item, test doc. I'm going to do txt here. Okay. I'm going to run directory again inside of documents, and I'm looking for that test doc txt, which is right here. So we just made a txt file. All right, awesome. And now I'm going to have to Google this, but I want to put information into that txt file. So PowerShell PowerShell add text to. Okay. So this is telling me add content and then a path. So add content. Okay. Test doc. txt, and then I'm going to add in a string. This is some test content for the file. I'm going to hit enter here. I didn't get any error. I'm assuming this is working. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here to C drive. All right, I'm going to look for that txt. This is some text content for that file. So notice that I did not have to open up this file and I was able to alter it from the command line. This is the type of stuff that you're going to have to be able to do on a daily basis if you're going into this field. You have to be able to alter things through the command line because that's all you have. You don't have a GUI. You don't have a way of opening this up in a text file. So hopefully, you guys understand this. And file pathing is incredibly important, especially when we get into the web portion of this course, this class, because this is exactly how you are going to get those images, the just content. And for you guys, it's going to be images, but there's a bunch of reasons why you're going to need this later on. But yeah, super important. So let's go over some of the other things that are more than likely you already know how to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some basic things. I'm going to open up settings. Now, I generally use the search bar here, so let's go ahead and find this the long way. Display sounds and notifications. So right now I'm just trying to change some display settings. I'm going to leave this here because I actually need that. Let's go down to no. Clipboard, remote desktop. Nope. Personalization. Okay. Change picture every 10 minutes. Okay. If you didn't know how to do this before, you can actually set your background to a slideshow. So if you go slideshow here and then pick a folder, it will rotate through a bunch of pictures for you. Okay, shuffle, choose fit. You can change your background color. I got black for right now for the pictures. Okay, so if I come down here to colors, choose your color, dark, light, custom. Let's go to light just to show you that this does indeed work. Yay, light mode. No one likes it. Back to dark mode. Okay, you can automatically pick your accent color based on your background image. I mean, you can do that if you want, but just pick a color. Okay, lock screen. Okay, since I'm here, should be good. Get fun facts. No, don't care. Okay, themes. What's in themes? Color, gold, cursor, desktop image. Okay, fonts over here. If you want bigger fonts, which I'm pretty sure I adjusted these a little bit, or if you just want different fonts, got a bunch of options in here, and you can always add more if you want to. Start bar. Yep. So here's a bunch of personalization options. All right. Next thing that we got to go over, just to, again, checklist on a lot of the things that are a little bit outdated, but we'll go over it anyways. We're going to download some software for Windows. We just need to pick a thing. What Oh, what is a reasonable thing that we can download? Mm, let's do a crystal dismark. I don't think I have this yet, and if I do, oh well. Okay, crystal dismark. Here we go. We can close that. So one of the things that's kind of annoying about Windows in general is that all the software that you can download for it is typically on someone else's website, which isn't great. Um, everyone else has a repository, which is nice, except for Windows. Okay, so I went through all those things pretty quick. I'm relatively certain you guys have installed software before. So we're going to launch Crystal Dismark. Okay, and we're going to use this real quick. And we're going to go really fast through this. So we'll do all here. We'll only do 64 megabytes. This won't take that long. And to be clear, right now I'm using this disk because I'm putting a bunch of data on it with this recording. So that read speed is a little low. Yeah, write is never going to be higher than read. Well, it might be in some circumstances, but not for this. Yeah, so those are silly results because I'm recording a video to this drive, but hey, what are you going to do? I demonstrated that this software works. Okay, so we went over that. We went over fonts. We went over personalizations. I think that's it, at least operating system wise. Okay, so with that said, I think that's going to do it for this one, for the operating system portion of this course. If you have any questions, if you're an upper stage student, reach out to me on Discord. If we need to cover more things on the operating system, we can do so. I really want you guys to focus in on the file pathing, the command line interface, because you're going to need it for everything, right? This is not a thing that you can get away from. So, all right, that's all I got for this one. So I'll see you in the next video.